So I've been through many interview processes. I've done it good, I've done it bad, and I've done it ugly. So for us, what does that look like? We do a 2-part interview, and really you can almost look at it as 3, because when I look through the candidates and I've got this rough idea of where I want to go with a candidate, I'm going to give these people a call with the intention that I probably want to interview this individual, but I want to ask some just surface level questions that give me a good idea if there's just some monstrous red flags, in that process. So there's a phrase, quick to hire, quick to fire. What's the reality that I probably see? Quick to fire, slow to hire. That's not the way to do it either. Definitely not the way to do it. The recipe that has worked for us in our business is slow to hire, quick to fire. So for us, even before we start that interview process, it starts with putting out a job posting, okay? And I can tell you my absolute recommendation from trying all the different avenues of where should you post jobs, where is it at right now as you're watching this video? Indeed. Indeed is the place that's worked very well for us. There's probably a lot of different avenues you can go to find, but there are just applicants all over the place. You can get plenty of applicants for a very reasonable cost. I'm sure we'll do a video sometime just almost specifically about Indeed because of how good I believe that source is. But you go ahead and put an app out there, right? And you start to see these applicants coming in, and it's sort of, there's some obvious stuff, right, that you look for in interviews when you see people, only at a job for 1 year here, 6 months there. You want to see people that have been in a job for some sort of length, a period of time. And these are things that I think are kind of widely talked about. Nothing that's sort of a trade secret by me telling you that information. Well, if you guys have not seen the video that I've done about dispositions, the next thing you have to look at is, are you going to get the correct disposition for the correct job? To me, there's 2 things that I believe it takes to be phenomenal at a job. You got to get someone who's got the correct disposition, and they also have to have the correct skill set. Those 2 things together make a diabolical combination to someone massively succeeding in any job. And very much depending on what your structure of the business is, if you are very well established, you got lots of money in the bank, I think it almost always best to hire someone that has both of those things. The one that's an absolute requirement for me is the correct disposition. If you don't know what I mean by that, check out this video right here. So besides the correct disposition, I talked about having the correct skill set. What's the difference between a disposition and a skill? Disposition is what you are, right? A skill is what you learn. And skills are the rung on the ladder, right? And if I want to accomplish this task, I've got to have all these skills. So preferably I want to hire someone that's got all these rungs on the ladder already, or maybe they're only missing 1 or 2. Now, skill is skill. I hear people say, I want to hire someone with no skill and I want to train from the ground up and teach them all the correct skills. That's completely viable. And if you don't have much money in the bank, I think that's the absolute best way to hire, because when you do it that way, you can get absolutely great value. When you have someone that has amassed all the skills in the world, it costs a lot of money to get those people, okay? But if you're in a position that you have the money, that you're ready to pay them, then that's where you want to grab people with skill. If you don't, then absolutely you hire them down here. So now that you've got an idea on whether you're looking for someone who's got the low skill set to come in or the high skill set, then you're going to start to see these applicants sort of flooding through, right? And of course there's things that we kind of all know, right? You don't want someone who's been job hopping 6 months here, 12 months there, year and a half here, 2 months there, right? You're looking for that longevity type person in your business. So that's sort of, that's nothing that I'm giving away that's a trade secret, right, for me to be telling you that information. So then where do you go from there after seeing the long list of applicants? You're gonna have your eye on particular ones, right? And so when you find that person or those people that you're possibly considering for the job, the first thing that I do is I give them a phone call. So I will actually call them with every intention of offering them an interview, okay? In that process, I'm asking surface level questions, and what the purpose of that phone call for me is to uncover if there are massive red flags, something that's going to save me a bunch of time to not even sit down with this person. And there's probably 25% of the time that I think we've got someone that we're ready to, go ahead and do an interview with. And I ended up just telling them that this is just kind of exploratory conversations, and if it's something we're interested, in pursuing, we would give them a call back in the future. So, assuming that you found no red flags with this individual, what we have done, because I told you, we're kind of adopting this process of slow to hire, quick to fire, we do a 2-interview system. Now, it's in my very nature as the absolute dominator, complete the task man that I am, to just do 1 interview and move right on to the fact of hiring this person. But it is very important, critically important, to minimally do 2 interviews, completely dependent on your industry, what that job level is, right? So in the context of, us, which again could be anything, running an equipment dealership, I look at, even if it's a surface level type job, someone who's a yard worker, someone who's power washing equipment or doing some of the lowest line tasks around here, they are still going to get 2 interviews, right? So what does that first interview look like? That first interview, that to me is easy peasy. This is just a conversation that you're having with an individual. So I keep my resumes here. So all I do is I'll have a resume out when I'm talking to an individual, and really it's pretty simple. I start with a question. I start with asking, give me your quick life story. How did you get here? Give me the reason that you've kind of went from different places. What's got you exactly in this room right now? And the entire interview stems off of that entire thing. And so as this applicant is talking to me, it's arising questions in my head as to whether I think that they're going to be qualified to do what we're doing here. In the entire context of this entire interview, what am I thinking about? I'm putting it in the context of this chart right here. I will have a link to this chart in the description. When I talk about dispositions, it's critically important that the entire time I'm trying to confirm if this applicant is indeed the disposition that I'm looking for. So let's take a sales-oriented individual. If I'm to focus on this chart, typical salespeople, and what I look for are what I call this victor mentality, right? They have a drive for competition, winning, success. Now, does that mean I'm going to put someone in a box that if they're not that disposition, they can't be those things? No, I'm not. But the reality of sales, if I look at that specific thing, is that's a critical disposition. Maybe you're hiring for something that is HR or service-based. That's where I'm looking for something in this E disposition. Maybe it's a video editor, and I'm looking to see if they produce quality work. It might be advantageous that someone like that might fall into the L category, right? And then I think of someone that can operate a business. Someone that can operate a business, someone that is that creative behind marketing, that might be someone over in this O category, right? So I'm thinking about that, and I'm trying to do everything I can to peg which disposition this person is, because like I told you, it's critically important that you get the correct disposition for the job, right? Think about if you are hiring someone for a customer service type position and they fall in this V category. They're harsh. They're not emotionally empathetic for this person that's coming in that's having these problems. That's the last person you want in a position like that. And that's why it's critically important that you don't want someone who's going to constantly fight what their disposition is to be good at the job. So I'm looking at that, in that interview process. And let me say this, if they don't fall in that category, take a guy we interviewed this past week. He falls in the O category, but we're looking at him for a sales position. Does he lean towards V? That's something I'm looking at. Do they have to lean towards V? They don't have to, but I might hire someone knowing they could be an incredible operator, or they could be an incredible manager of a sales team. And when I look at a guy that I interviewed this past week, that is exactly what I was thinking about when we went ahead and did his interview. I thought this guy would be great in sales. This guy would do a really good job, I can tell. But this guy might grow in the company and he'd be a phenomenal operator. During this period where they're talking and I'm asking questions about what they've done, this and that, I'm trying to judge disposition. The other thing, like I said, the other thing that you have to have, and this is where it depends on your financial situation. If you're in a position that you can pay people well, then you want to get the absolute most skilled person at that position. So I'm also judging what their skills are. How many rungs do they have on this ladder to get up and complete the task of whatever it is you're hiring them to do? Who is the person that should be conducting this interview? It's critically important on the first interview. It's not required for an O person to be in the room for the first interview, okay? But it's critically important that they be in the room for at least the second interview. And if you want to get to the information quicker, have an O person in the room. What are O people phenomenally good at? They're great at judging people. They're great at judging character, all these sorts of things. Now, if you don't have an O person that works in your business, you gotta go to the O and you gotta just do your absolute best to make a critical judgment on who someone is. But I can't state this enough. Get an O person and value their opinion in this process because they are so good at reading people. They have the superpower to understand if someone's a good fit or not. So by the end of that first interview, you're going to have a gut feeling. You're going to know at that point, do you think that this person, maybe you need to have a conversation with the other person you interview with. The very first interview, it should be you by yourself or it should be one other person, no more than 2 people. By the time you get to the second interview, you're going to have more people in the room. And this next part is going to depend on what your nature is. So let's say you're someone like me and you're a V person, someone who's very quick to make decisions. You feel as though you have a pretty good gut instinct. You, at the end of this very interview, might schedule a second interview with this individual. You might know. If you are someone that leans more to this side of the chart, you may need a little contemplation time. You may need some time to discuss this. If there's someone else in the room with you and you want to make sure you get their opinion, then you may just want to tell this applicant that you will call them back as soon as you have made a decision on whether they will be getting a second interview. And so you guys go on your way, and it comes down to the fact of, are you going to ask them for the second interview or not? But let's say you do. Let's say they are worth that second interview. What is the purpose of the second interview? There are 2 reasons the second part of an interview is critically important. The last thing you want to do is hire an individual, have them start for 3 days, realize that they do not like what the actual job is, and vice versa. The last thing you want to do is hire this individual, see what their actual skills are, and be extremely disappointed with the work in which they exude. You went through the whole process, getting all their payroll information, you've paid them for all this time, just to the point where you have to fire them, or just to the point they have to quit. How many times have you hired someone and they quit within a week? It is because you are bad at interviewing. You need to do the second interview. That's the critical step so that you don't run into situations like this. So for us, we're an equipment dealership, right? I've got a 7,000 square foot building. We're somewhat confined on a group space. Literally what that means for my business is we're right now actually setting up for an interview that's gonna happen here shortly. And it's gonna be right in this area. Doesn't need to be something that's fancy. We're gonna have probably 5-6 chairs in this area. Every single person that's gonna come in immediate contact with this individual, we want their input, right? Again, what's the purpose of the second round of interviews? The purpose is we want to have a good idea if he is a fit for our business, and we're giving him an opportunity to see if we are a good fit. So we're gonna put him in contact with the people that he is possibly going to be around. If he doesn't get along with these people, this is not going to work out, right? And vice versa. So that's the purpose of this aspect of the interview. So the next part of our second interview, we're going to take them through some things. So, this guy we're interviewing today, it's for a sales position. What are the things that he's going to have to do in a sales position? Number one, he's going to be constantly navigating our point of sale system. This guy has to have the ability to be good with the technology aspect of what that job is. We know he's going to be on that platform literally for about a third to half of his day. So we're going to give him a little 15-minute training on how to navigate through that system. The second part of this interview is we're going to give him a mower to sell. We're gonna throw him through a mock situation, and we're going to have one of the employees come through as if they're shopping for a mower, and we're gonna see how he does. And I've armed him with enough information to be successful in this. I sent him product informational videos. Now we have a YouTube channel, right? And we can give him those product information videos exactly from the context of us speaking about that. But you might not, that's not a huge deal. All you need to do is tell him he's gonna be selling a mower, and the two brands that we sell are Bad Boy and Toro. And he can go off to YouTube and you can suggest this person to go do that to pick up the product knowledge. You may have a completely different way that they can pick up product knowledge. The world of YouTube, you're watching me on it is my guess, right? And so it's a very great way to get the information over, across the table. So in conclusion, if there's anything that you should draw away from this video, follow those steps that I've laid out. Go through that process. And what generally happens, you are slow to hire. So I'll say it again, slow to hire, quick to fire. That's the most important thing I can tell you through that interview process. And by the way, Chris, you're fired.